Okay. 1 second. Let me, just 1 second. So, Hefti, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I hope.
Okay.
I hope so.
Okay. In that case, hello and welcome everybody to the third meeting of the speaker series, Women, Tradition and Change in Israel Society, sponsored by the Bellsberg Postdoctoral Program in Israel Studies, Department of Classics and Religion, and Department of Anthropology and Archaeology of University of Calgary, in collaboration with Bet Midrash Arevot, Women Within Tradition. It is a real pleasure to welcome my friend Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu, who will lead this third session. Before introducing our speaker today, I would like to remind our participants, those who have not attended previous sessions, what Arevot is, and say a few words about the women behind this project. Arevot is an organization in a Bet Midrash, or a house of study, house of learning, located in Jerusalem, devoted to the study of Sephardi and Mizrahi Judaism and history from a feminist perspective. It is the first Bet Midrash of its kind, and it works as a laboratory of feminist Mizrahi Jewish thought. On top of being a community of women from the most diverse backgrounds, a multi-generational community where different approaches to Judaism, tradition, change, and feminism meet. For me, Arevot is my natural space and one of my communities of reference, where I continue to learn and build knowledge in collaboration with friends who are also mentors. Among these friends, I am lucky to count Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu, whom I see as an authority figure, a loyal friend, and a mentor. Hefti is one of the founding members of Bet Midrash Arevot. She's also the former leader of Degel Yehuda, an egalitarian Sephardi congregation in Jerusalem. And she has led different projects in the field of Jewish Renaissance in Israel for many years. She has an MA in comparative religion from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. In the past, she has worked as a researcher and curator of exhibitions on religion and culture at the Israel Museum and at the Jerusalem Citadel Museum. Finally, I will add that Hefti has provided me with invaluable guidance and support since we met. She gave me enough confidence to lead projects, knowing that I would always count on her support and presence next to me. Together, we coordinate the halachic program Morot Tzedek, taught by Rabbi Chaim Ovadia, in which we explore Sephardic halachic methodology to transform halacha, especially in spheres relevant to women. Hefti is the person I turn to when in doubt, and one of the people I trust the most. So it is my privilege to introduce her to you all today. Enjoy.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. I would like to share with you some of my experiences and thoughts around the question of tradition and feminism. And also I will speak in the first person. I learned everything from my colleagues at Arevot, like Angie, my community, my family, and from teachers and friends along the way. It's very important for me to say that. This is part of my traditionist identity. Okay. I live in a dissonance. Yes. Can you see the screen? Okay, thank you. I live in a dissonance. I am a feminist, a woman who lives a full life as possible in society and culture, advocating the values of freedom, equality, respect for all human beings. And I live a traditional life. Judaism is an integral part of my identity, my spiritual life, and my creative powers. the Torah, in the broadest sense of the word, thought and deed, fills me with joy and gives me an anchor in life. And here, the Jewish religion exerts on women three well-known mechanisms: exclusion, marginalization, and invisibility. In spite of that, I insist on holding on both of them, feminism and tradition. So how can I remain faithful to the tradition that operates these oppression mechanisms? If one thinks in black and white, a disconnection is one option. In the last year, a Facebook group of religious feminists in Israel was closed because the founder felt that all her efforts to bring about change for women in Judaism had failed. And she writes, if you want to be a free, equal woman, sovereign over her body, her womb, her sexuality, her health, her love, her joy, then a religious framework is not the place for that. Nothing else to say. There is complete disconnection. I choose differently. Not one way or the not all of it or nothing. I choose to be. I choose masortiyut. Are you familiar with the word? Masortiyut.
I think it'd be helpful if you translate it.
Traditionism or traditionalism. I don't know what the best is best. Traditionism is a space that leaves room for complexity and contradictions, like I described. I can be loyal to tradition and feel oppressed by it at the same time. Tradition allows flexibility. Next, flexibility. I don't need to choose one pole or another to be religious or secular. There is a Sephardi model of continuity as part of our tradition. It enables everyone to move along the continuum of affinity and observance, and always, no matter what, how much he observes and how affinity he feels, he will always still be part of the community. This is an option that I did not have when I was in a religious setting. But most of all, tradition for me is to find myself a place in the chain of transmission from Sinai to the present day. I am committed to the tradition of my mothers and my fathers from the past and forward to the future of my children. And it is my duty to challenge the tradition to suit our lives at this time. This is the deep meaning for me to be loyal to tradition, to be committed to the past and the future equally. From this stand and connection to tradition, I demand change. So how to affect change, correct, make tikkun? One option is disconnect, break, and create anew. The other one is create continuity from within the tradition. Of course, the story of the woman who closed the Facebook, the Facebook group did not offer any continuing, any innovation. She just disconnected. Zionism, on the other hand, tried to create a new Jew in the land of Israel and demanded that the old world must be erased. For many Israelis, this dichotomy is the only option, to be that or that, and it dominates the culture and social norm of the state of Israel since. I would like to give such an example from a poet named David Shimoni, who many generations of Israeli grew on. So the verse is from a proverb that says, "My son, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the instruction of your mother." And he reverses it. Anyone would like to read us the poem? It's very short and.
Mitchell, do you want to read the poem?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm very sick though, so mind my voice.
That is okay.
Okay. So start from, sorry. Start from here. Do not listen, my son.
Do not listen, my son, to the morality of a father and to the doctrine of motherhood. Do not listen. Listen, man, to the son's song. Strike out a new path and leave the way the father went. For why should you sin against the generation, a generation of the distant future flooded with light? In the sleep of the mother, in the sleep of the father, hear how the spirit sings the son's song.
So I hope you see the, yeah, thank you. The demand to it's a sharp cut of disconnection from the past, from the mother, from the father mostly. And the world of the father is symbolized in darkness, while the world of the son is symbolized by light. So there is a very sharp cut between the two worlds. I can give you another example, a more a feminine example. It's a letter. It's also a pioneer. The letter is also from the same period, it was written in 1922. It was published in 1927. But it's a letter from a pioneer to her mom, and she is about to leave her mother to go to the land of Israel to fulfill herself as a pioneer. And in this, I think we move on. I'll just tell you more or less what it says. Here we see a complexity, more complexity of continuity. There is a cut, but it is accompanying by pain. She described her mother as a weak woman, but she also understands that this weakness of her mother is a source of learning for her to move forward. And I'll send you the presentation, and you can go and read it more carefully, and you'll see the complexity. She's ashamed. She's sorry. She does cut her ties with the past, but still she feels the connection. Anyway, on both examples there is a cut and disconnection, destruction of the old world. But there is another possibility: create continuity from within tradition. I myself, as Angie mentioned, a member in an egalitarian community, Sephardi community in Jerusalem. We follow the tradition of Sephardi Mizrahi Jews, and we combine moderation and loyalty of the Jewish heritage. We are completely egalitarian, but we don't change the halakha. This is one of the contradictions that we live in. And we have the Sephardi model that I talked about before, that everyone is on a different spectrum between secular and religious. And we are all one community. And it's very interesting because we feel that because the loyalty to tradition is very strong, we can move around in a very broad way. like if you are holding a rope in the center, you can move and you can go around with it very far from the center and still be connected. So this is the feeling of being in such a Masorti or traditional community. As I want to give you an example of an expression of such loyalty from a poem of Esther Shkalim. She is a traditional Masorti woman, Mizrahi Masorti woman, who her poems speaks very clearly and very strongly our feeling about tradition and feminism. So maybe we'll read only part of it, only what in black, what is bolded. So anyone would like to read? Maybe Leah? Leah, would you like to read?
Maybe
I'm
Anna.
muting myself. All right, here
There
I
you
am.
go, Leah.
Male,
bold,
what? Yes, okay.
the bold
A Mizrahi woman's way of equality. Male and female created he them, us, equals. We will not be silent. We will not rest, and we will not fear until we finish the task. But I will never ask if you trust me, children of darkness or children of light. For you are my father, my fathers and my father's fathers, the wise ones of the community. I am with my fathers. And what happened now? Sorry. No.
Down because
I am with my, yes, just a minute. I am with my fathers, and my fathers are with me. I will not declare war, will not pursue, will not overtake, will not crush, will not defeat. This is my father, and I will glorify him, my fathers, and I will extol them. To you I call, Father, demanding redress, crying out, beseeching, to renew without stepping outside, to resolve without breaking the chain, to repair, but not to destroy. You wanted just the bold letters, sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
No, it's okay. But I hope you could see the deep loyalty of Esther here in the poem. And she asks permission from the father to be part. She's waiting for him to do something for her. And the poem is very moving and express my feeling, but it also raises a question. If we want to make change, what are the limits of our loyalty? Do you stay within the limits of asking for permission? I would like to suggest another step, to actively enter into the Jewish tradition and find the forgotten experiences, contributions, and deeds of women with values in their own, with their own rights, as an essential part of the story. We want to expand tradition. You probably know this quotation. Thank you to Angie that you gave it to me. We want to incorporate women histories as part of the living memory of the Jewish people, and thus create a history that functions as Torah. And I want to ask how we, as Sephardi Mizrahi women, incorporates women history, expand the tradition. I want to offer the sources of Sephardi Mizrahi sages as an inspiration from which one can move on, an inspiration to see women as a vital and equal part of tradition. these two columns of values exist within the sources of Sephardi Mizrahi heritage. And when I put them together, I just realized after I put them together that the left the left column talks about individual, the parts, self-fulfillment, is more reflecting the Western liberalism, while community, the whole, commitment and loyalty, more or less are connected to tradition. And I would like to say that all of these are present in the Sephardi Mizrahi heritage. I want to show you some sources that reflect these values. I also would like to say that Sephardi Mizrahi heritage in all its aspects, all dimensions, law, leadership, perception of social justice, everywhere, you'll find continuity, diversity, inclusion, and approach that takes into the account the individual, always thinking about the community and the individual, the parts and the whole. And we'll see that also self-fulfillment, which is the place where I want women to come in and make change. So the most attitude or approach to keeping the Torah says that the perfection of keeping the commandment is the work of the individual. And I didn't bring the whole passage, but it says that man does not buy wholeness to gain the next world except in the observance of the whole Torah with every part of his body. And it goes on and on to say that the number of mitzvot are the number of the organs of our body. And if we don't keep one mitzvah, something can get wrong with our bodies. And in parallel to that, in the Torah itself. So, but I want to show you another approach, an approach that Israel are considered as one body, and through their entirety, the Torah is kept. Israel, of course, cannot keep the whole Torah because there are many mitzvot an individual cannot keep, such as those he had no opportunity to, although that only apply in the land of Israel. But Israel are considered as one body, and through their entirety, the Torah is kept. So it means that everyone keeping part of the Torah, but the Torah is kept together from the contribution of everyone. I'm going to see. I want to go to another, slightly different, but bringing another dimension to it. It says, in there, to the people of Israel, God gave Torah, which is long as the land and wide as the sea, to benefit his people Israel, to win them over in their entirety, so that everyone would find his own that was lost for him. Therefore, they have a large quantity of Torah and mitzvot, a vast land. It means that it gives freedom to the individual to look, to find himself in the vast quantity of mitzvot and Torah, and the imagery is very beautiful. Broad land, broad sea, if we look at both of these examples that I brought, the first one is emphasizing on the lacking. You can't do it all, and you always feel guilty, and you always feel that it's not enough. The second, that of Rabbi Shimon Eben Kassis and Rabbi Azan, the previous one, you always feel there is a feeling of fullness. Everyone is adding to something that is already whole. So there is a different feel to both of them. But if we until now see a freedom for the individual to choose, here in this source there is a demand that everyone will have his share. So there is a saying from Masechet Avot. They say that every day there is a cry for Torah. Why people are not studying it? And everyone that is not studying it is reproached and called nazuf, reproached. Thank you. So the Chida from the 18th century, you see, a very famous rabbi, a Sephardi rabbi, asked, and what insult does it cause to the Torah that they will not deal with it? And what does the Torah care if one is not engaged? Because there are many who are engaged. So what's the problem if only one does not engage? And in our way, we said that every person from Israel received his share from Sinai and should engage in the Torah to publish his share. And this cannot be done by any other. It means it's very beautiful, if you think about it, that everyone got his share in Sinai, and everyone is obliged to publish his share for the entirety of the nation. So there is a value of self-fulfillment here, because no one can do it for you. But at the same time, there is an obligation, a commitment to the community, to the nation, as I said, and a solidarity. I need to take care of other people to find their share, because I can do it for them. So there is a sense of responsibility and a sense of solidarity. And I'm sure that all these sources that we just see. I don't think we're thinking about women or equality and significant as we see it, but I see here an opening for women to say, I'm actively entering this space because the sources themselves allow me to. It says no one can publish my share from Sinai, so I'm obliged to do it, and I'm doing it as an equal partner, an equal participant in the Jewish tradition. And it is said we stood at Sinai. It is said in the verses that Bet Yaakov, according to Rashi, is the women. Do you have any question until now before I move a little further?
Are there any questions? No? Okay.
No, okay. So until now, we felt that we did something in the name of the Father. We went into the sources that rabbis, the tradition of the Father created, and we are putting ourselves in them. But our teacher, Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu, she came to our Bet Midrash, Arevot, for only 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes were so inspiring and still a cornerstone for our work in Arevot. So maybe we'll read it. It's a transcript of a lecture, so it's not. It's a transcript of a lecture, so it's not very polished. Who would like to?
Anna,
read?
would you like to read?
Yeah, I can definitely read this one.
Okay.
It is possible to rebuild and strengthen the status of women as priests of life. This is what they actually were, mainly in the communities who came from the East, but but it is not worth taking it only in the narrow sense. To be lamenters or midwives, because of the traditionism, we create something new. For example, they have the responsibility for life, the guarantee of life. The more, is it shamanic?
Yeah, like a
For sure.
yeah, like a shaman, yeah.
place of woman as a teacher, healer, wise woman. On the philosophical level, I think it is possible to move to the point where the East is characterized by the fact that discourse can also be in the name of the mother and not just in the name of the father. In the East, you can also speak in the name of the mother, and this is an important point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So this is an invitation to start doing and speaking in the name of the mother, meaning that we have to find, to delve into our sources, to our tradition, and extract from there the hidden voices of women, their values, their stories, and bring them to light. This is to take share, to discover our share from Sinai. For example, only recently, one of my friend said to me, do you remember Tamar? Tamar is the woman who seduced Judah, her father-in-law, because she didn't have children, and because she acted the way she acted, the tribe of Judah continues, and the tribe of Judah, it's us, all Jews. Most Jews in the world are the tribe of Judah, and it's because of this woman. But we ignore it because she's invisible. Women are invisible, marginalized, and excluded. So our task is to cancel these oppression tools. So I want to give an example of something that we did not long before in Arevot and Degel Yehuda. Angie probably told you about it. I know that Angie and I together created this ceremony based on few verses in the Bible telling us about the women who spinning and weaving for the tabernacle. These verses are very short. No one pay very much attention to them during the reading of the Torah, and we decided to stop and to bring them out into the consciousness and put it into the ritual of reading the Torah. And as we delved into the sources, a whole world of imagery, of roles, of experiences discovered, of qualities of women discovered. And this was a kind of doing something in the name of the mother. So I'll just go very quickly because I think we are almost out of time. Just a few of the ideas that came out from these few verses. First of all, these verses talks about the skilled women that spun with their own hands and brought what they had spun in blue, purple, and crimson yarns and in fine linen. And all the women who excelled in that skill spun the goat's hair. It's the translation is not very accurate. There is a mention of a woman of a wise heart, which is very prominent in the text, and it gets lost in translation. But anyway, when, as I said, when we checked all the all the sources around it and connected to this story, we discovered a whole world, like the correcting the sin of the golden calf. You remember the story of the golden calf in the desert. The tradition says that women did not sin, but then Ben Ishchai, a very famous Sephardi sage from Baghdad, says that they were wise because they knew that they need to correct the sin of the golden calf for the men. So what did they do? The women wove the hair while it was attached to the goats and brought the goats to the men to cut and finish the work. So that's how they corrected the sin of the golden calf and make the men participate in the making of the tabernacle. Another example is the quality of women as take care of continuity of life that is connected to the story in Egypt. In Egypt, they took mirrors and seduced their husband to lay with them, and in that way they had children, and the people of children multiplied. And these mirrors were brought to the Moses to create the tabernacle. Another connection is between women creation and the tabernacle. The tabernacle was considered to be parallel to the creation of the world. 3 days of the creation are connected to women. First, the sheets of the goat corresponding to Sunday, the parochet, the curtain that they were weaving for the Mishkan and the temple corresponding to the second day, and the sink that were made from the copper mirrors correspond to Tuesday. And all the imagery of creation and weaving are very developed in Midrash and in the sources, and it's very interesting. I brought only 2 examples. That heavens were created from the garment of light, of the light of God, and that the world exists from the sun that weaves food for the people. And the parochet, that the women, the curtain inside the temple and the Mishkan, Josephus Flavius, that described the parochet, says that the weaver embodied that the element of the universe are created in this parochet, like fire, earth, air, and sea, according to the colors of the parochet. And they are also connecting action and thought. Ben Ishchai again says that why they were called wise. They called wise because they knew how to combine nigudim, contrasts, and oppositions and opposites, and connecting action and thought. So that's it. I hope I could manage with my broken English to convey the way that I try to show from a way that is not cutting and disconnecting from tradition, but finding ways within tradition to find a place for women, either in joining what the fathers taught us and extracting in the name of the woman Torat Em. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Heftzi. This was really, really great. Yeah, it was really, really great and really enlightening. Maybe you can stop sharing the screen. Okay. And so if anybody has a question or a comment, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask or speak. And you don't need to ask for permission. And is there anybody that would like to say something now, or should I just go? Leah, do you have a?
Yeah, I have a question. In a way, I disagree with what you brought in, from the lecture by Professor Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu when she said that only women in the East had a whole world of religiosity and spirituality, etc. I think that feminist research shows that women in Ashkenazi women also had that all the time. And of course, this is her story that was silenced by his story, right? So, but it is being brought up. And my question is, I'm trying to modify a little bit what she said, what Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu said. Do Sephardic sages, male sages, do they explicitly speak inclusively, right, of women's sharing in spirituality? Because the same Ben Ish Chai wrote a book about women, Kanun el-Nisa, which is completely horrible in patriarchy. Even though we know that his own daughters were very learned, and he corresponded with Flora Sassoon on halachic matters, etc. And they probably, his daughters, learned tefillin, etc. But when it came to official positions of sages versus women, I'm not so sure that Sephardic rabbis fare better than Ashkenazi rabbis.
Yeah. First of all, they are not better, but their perception of community, individual, of fulfilling the mitzvot, of study Torah. What I try to say, that there is an option in the sources themselves for us to go in, because it's their flexibility, their, as I showed, there is a care for the fulfillment of the individual, as well as the commitment to the community and Klal Israel. So it goes together. And in this space, in that space, I think there is a place for women. I didn't make a comparison between Ashkenaz and Sfarad. And what Heftsiba Cohen-Montagu says, it's not that it's better in the East. She's just saying that Western, like Eastern civilization is late in progress or in involvement in many areas like this. And it has a unique voice that can come now, can come out now, and like pull the West with us into different different
into like
new horizons,
into different directions, and
different
directions.
And sorry, and she also says that East and West Judaism must be combined to tell the full Jewish narrative. So it's very important that the father and the mother are two vital components of the story of Judaism and of the world. And that's one. About Ben Ish Chai, you are right. And we can find, different voices in everywhere. in the Bible, in all the sources. But I must say that there is a reference of Harav Massas about studying the Torah. And usually when women are studying the
Rav
Torah—
Massas was a Moroccan rabbi of the 20th century, for
Yes.
those of you who don't
Thank
know.
you, Angie. Usually they say, okay, it's very good that they study Torah and learn Torah because they have to educate the house, their children, their environment. And Rav Massas specifically talks about pleasure in studying Torah, like pure pleasure. And he goes on and brings imagery from Shir HaShirim, Song of Song. And this is very unique. I was so happy to see that I have, and he goes on and on. So, and of course, I'm not sure he would love us to be shlichot tzibur and to, but still, I think that our job is to find these places, and because we don't want to disconnect ourselves from tradition, to see there is an opening for us to go in. But as I said, it's not enough. We have to find the women, the hidden or transparent women in our sources and bring it to light.
I do think that to build on what you're saying, I do think that there is a specific quality of Sephardic halachic approaches that it's not about being better or worse. It has to do with with very specific historical and cultural conditions. And I do think that Sephardic halacha, like Sephardic Jewish life, had a higher tolerance to ambiguity. So because there was less of a need to create movements, groups, responses to all sorts of threats that were happening outside of Jewish life, and to which Jews were trying to adapt, because there was less of a need to change in order to have a place in society. There was a higher tolerance to ambiguity. So then we find this very surprising, at least in hindsight, very surprising responses, such as the drasha of Yitzhak El-Ghazi. Yitzhak? What's his name? Yitzhak? Yaakov El-Ghazi, which is like, how is this possible? It's an 18th century drasha, not even 19th century, or not even 20, let alone 20th century. No, it's like 19th century drasha. This person sitting in Algeria was like, yeah, this is very clearly the interpretation of Eshet Chai. We should, and it's very surprising to, I mean, at least it's surprising now that we that the canon is orthodoxy, but it wasn't surprising probably back then. Or if it was surprising, there was this ambiguous space in which someone like that, who I doubt was a revolutionary or some sort of rebel, came up with this drasha. And so on the same thing with the Rav Massas, he doesn't sound afraid. He doesn't sound apologetic. He doesn't, and not only about women, also about non-Orthodox and non-observant Jews, about lots of things that were very problematic. And you read him and he sounds confident. He doesn't sound afraid of what others are going to say. And I think this is speaking about a Jewish world that was not better or worse, just had different conditions for these voices to emerge. And the same voices weren't necessarily freedom fighters. I doubt that Rav Massas himself was a freedom fighter. I don't know if I would like Rav Massas to be my father. I guess I don't know what he would think about many things that are very important for us today. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Rav Ben Ish Chai, certainly not, but that all these rabbis were feminists, but that they do provide halachic resources for us to use because they were men, and they had the authority they had, we can pull that in and use it today.
Yes, I think that you maybe one way of phrasing it would be to say that the Ashkenazi strategy was male. It had to do with securing yourself against da-da-da-dam, freeing yourself from da-da-da-dam.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas the Sephardic way, there's something more feminine about it, about the inclusivity, and the looking at the continuum as a whole without fracturing it. So within that, within those two models, we work. Okay, so there's a lot to do, both in the father way and in the mother way. Okay, so but that's anyway, it's very interesting. I'm continuing to think about it.
Yeah, and also I always like to describe the difference between Ashkenazi and Sephardic. Think about a fence, a closure, that you have to decide either you are out or in. And the other imagery of the Sephardic thinking or the halacha or the rabbis or the tradition, it looks more like a stone that you throw in a water and it gives, ripple.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
Ripple. Yes.
So there is a center of belief, loyalty, community, hierarchy even. The rabbi is very important, but so that everyone is arranged or standing in a different relation to the center, so no one has to be left out. So that's how I feel about this tradition, that it can expand and expand without losing the center. And the way I was brought up in a dichotomic world, I have to be either inside the fence or outside, on one side of the fence or the other. So,
I think that the Hasidic movement was a moment, a historical moment in Ashkenazi Jewry, where they had it up to here with those hierarchies and dichotomies, and they tried. I think that it's no wonder that there were connections between Hasidic leaders and Sephardic rabbis. You know, if you think about Or Chaim and but also the Ben Ish Chai had connections with Hasidic rabbis.
Also,
I'm not sure. Yeah, right. So the question is, can this impulse of, I loved it, the way you described it, of the stone and the center and the ripples, can that model survive or even flourish with all the pressures that we suffer?
I also wanted to build on what Leah said about this, let's say, male approach and female approach, and connected to some feminist thinkers that actually discussing. I'm thinking about Sarah Rudik right now, and her
maternal,
book
yes,
on
right.
exactly on maternal thinking. How something that defines maternal thinking is grappling with ambiguities and having to negotiate realities that are at odds with each other. And you don't necessarily have a response, a definite response to this, but you know how to navigate this tension, and you know how to create life in this tension. And I was thinking about how this idea that it was Bourdieu's idea, right? That ambiguity is a quality of freedom. That when a society is free, there is more space for ambiguity. That when a person is free, there's more space for ambiguity in his thought, insofar as you can afford to play with the limits, because you have freedom or space at your disposal, and you're not threatened. Now, I was thinking about how important this is. Bye, Anna. Thank you. How important it is to connect these two things, to connect this, say, Levantine thought that does not articulate itself through dichotomies, and this female maternal thought that grapples with ambiguities and with opposites, and maybe the image could also be this stone.
Look, we say that the freedom that you speak about comes from learning Torah. The more you learn, the more free you feel, the more aware you are of the complexities and the ambiguities. So, like encouraging
Nice.
women to join in the learning, not the dogmatic things that rabbis say politically. I'm talking about the heart of it, which is like the stone with the ripples.
Yeah.
This is what we're at.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great way to wrap up.
Thank you, Hefti, very much.
Thank you, Hefti.
Thank you. Thank you.
This was really, really, really wonderful. Really.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, Leah.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you all
Bye-bye.
for participating.
Bye.